Well, Mr. Mayor, congratulations.
Well, thank you. Appreciate it.
It appears that the Langfelder dynasty in Springfield continues another 4 years, the legacy of the Langfelders. You made a lot of promises on the campaign trail, and you talked about things you want to do to redevelop the city. Some of that continues with what you've already talked about. I want to ask you about that in a moment. But first, do you have any repair work to do politically? It seemed in your speech last night that you made an inference, or you sort of referenced the fact that you fought this without some of the people that normally would have been by your side. Why was it important to mention that last night?
Well, I think it goes to show, I quote Lincoln quite often, he's our greatest resident in Springfield, and it's all about, regardless what level of government you're at, federal, state, or local, it's government of the people, by the people, for the people. And I always said, I don't worry about campaigns. What I worry about is doing the people's work. And when you do that, everything in the election should take care of itself. Last night was a case in point to that, because during this whole campaign election cycle, it was all about who wasn't supporting me, and they did last time. And one of the lessons in life my father taught me was you can't be relying on any one particular entity's support, because if they leave, then you're left twisting in the wind. And that's case in point. You always stay focused on the goal, and that's service to the people. And that was the point I was trying to make. It's really the voters. That's my membership, is the 115,000+ people in Springfield, and that's how I render my decisions. And sometimes it goes in crossways with people that do support you. But in the end, I think people really know I have Springfield's best interest at heart.
It sounds like you're saying, if I don't have the party bosses or the union bosses, but I've got the rank and file, that you're okay with that.
Right. Well, that's how I focus, is what's important to Springfield. And when I, have an issue come up or a problem that we're trying to solve or move forward in a particular direction, what's the best way as, the mayor of Springfield and the best interest of Springfield. So I don't concern myself as, if I do it this way, this entity is going to be mad, or this one. Really, you have to focus on what's the best direction.
You said the top priority is the Y block development and a university presence. This time, 4 years from now, can you guarantee today or pledge today that there will be a university presence of some kind, SIU, UIS, something on the Y block?
Well, I think there's a lot of variables. So if I would say 99% sure, as Jordan was going to retire, he ended up coming back. So 99% sure that will happen. There's always that remote possibility.
What are the obstacles? What are the things that make that not a sure bet?
Well, with universities, they rely on state funding. That's one key concept. But we're working with UIS. They're part of Innovate Springfield. Actually, the city of Springfield stepped up to the plate when the Chamber's Q5 initiative went by the wayside. So did the funding for Innovate Springfield. We were one of the first providers doing the 3-year commitment. And that really gave certainty with regards to the University of Illinois Springfield to partner and take over, not take over, it's too strong a word, but really be the lead agency with regards to Innovate Springfield. So they're looking to expand. The Y Block's a perfect fit for that, or a public affairs center, but there's also talk of SIU and potentially a law school that's been rumored probably longer than Lake 2 being built. And so we'll work with the legislature, with Senator Menard. He has an interest in that block, and others with regards to it. But Chancellor Cook, I've been in conversations with her ever since this process has been going on. So I think the election's over. Now they know I'm leading the city with regards to that, so we can fast forward that effort as much as possible.
What's your read on the new makeup of the city council?
Well, I haven't really been able to dissect it or really digest it a lot, but it's going to be the same as I have done. We're going to continue on with our ward plan meetings. I think that's what really came through in the results, is that the city council collectively, the treasurer, the clerk, city council members, along with myself, we are moving in the right direction, because you had large margins of victory. But a lot of that's the ward plan meetings. We had 4 in each ward. A lot of outreach. When we first started those, the message we were receiving from the public, do something with the utility rates. Fast forward to the end of it, and they were saying, keep the utility rates as they are. So that showed that we were listening and reacting and improving Springfield in the long run, as well as our wards, and I think that showed through the results. But we'll continue in that effort, working with all the aldermen and moving Springfield forward.
More than a third of the city that came out to vote last night and yesterday voted for a person who said that crime is on the rise and that
Mm-hmm.
Springfield is akin to a sinking Titanic ship.
Mm-hmm.
Those people, apparently, for one reason or another, heard something of truth in that message. They resonated with it. And now you're their mayor too. What's your message to the people that voted for Frank Edwards last night?
Well, I guess that's the pessimistic view. The optimistic view is nearly 60% felt that wasn't the case. I have my full faith and confidence in the direction the police department's going. And really, the men and women of the police department, they do a great job of serving the public. I call it Springfield policing, people call it community policing, but we are moving in the right direction. And when what I really take issue with is they say it's a dangerous city with the reports. We're no dangerous than Chicago, and that's what the reports were saying. That's why I brought up the issue that we're above. Violent crime was down over 30% since 2010, and that's when my challenger was in office, and that's why we pulled that out. The reason our numbers balloon up is retail thefts, burglaries, things of that nature, so it's more of awareness. But if anybody's impacted by crime, you take issue with it. And so that's what we're going to work with, continue our efforts with regards to the police, engaging our public through our war plan meetings, and how do we work together to really make people aware of how we can make our community safe wherever we live. And so that's the key component, is moving in that direction.
Have you seen these billboards that started to pop up recently in Decatur,
No.
saying that Decatur is safer than Springfield? It sounds like a little bit of trash talk, city to city. What do you make of that?
Well, I haven't been over to Decatur, so I guess most of them may be over here. I'm not sure, but really that's what it is. And really what it comes down to is, Springfield is one of the most affordable places to live. It's a great place to raise a family. We're recognized as one of the top 25 in restaurants right here in Springfield in the country. Memorial Health Services received the McKesson Award, given to one hospital in the country on how they take care of the patients. It's all about customer service, patient care. And they competed on the global market. We're number 2 in the world. So we have a lot of great assets with regards to Springfield. What we need to do a better job of is communicating that, marketing it to the world better than what has transpired. But we'll continue to move in that direction, making that happen.
I notice you're not throwing any shade back at Decatur.
Oh, no, but I know Julie Moore. She's a great lady. Julie Wolf, I think Moore was her other name,
Moore
but yeah. But she's a great mayor, and we work with her. And actually, when they talked about the EDC, and I'm glad you brought that up, the Economic Development Corporation, that I took heat on because I questioned how it was structured. It looked awfully familiar with the Q5 initiative of the chamber. And really, we need to change the dynamic. You just can't repaint the landscape. You need to really recreate economic development. And I look at it from a regional standpoint or beyond that. And what's the assets that we can leverage to make Springfield better? And if it's partnering with Decatur with their inland port, we need to do that. So I don't look at boundaries. I look at how can we improve the situation or the lives of people in Springfield, and however we can do that, I'm going to make that happen.
If you look at the map and the voting turnout last night and who got what votes where, it certainly seems at this early hour that you won the black vote in Springfield last night. There was a lot of discussion in this race about segregation, the economic divide that separates black households and white households, and I know that's sometimes an uncomfortable topic. What do you do today? You said your top priority is developing the Y block. Are there things, maybe even from a messaging standpoint, or is there something you can do to lift the hopes of people who live in this city in despair? What can you do for those people?
Well, the reason I mentioned the Y block is low-hanging fruit. Now the election's over. I think that was the obstacle, not having the university come out in full force towards that messaging or making that happen. So I think that's an area that we can move forward exponentially. But with regards to the segregation, that's where the rail corridor comes into play. I just met with J.P. Pritzker's administration about the rail corridor, hopefully getting funding, full funding for that. And that's where the race riot site was uncovered. So we want to memorialize that site. But what the importance of the corridor is, it will develop both sides of the track, especially the east side. So that is for the future. But the other thing is...
That's a long way off, right?
Well, no, we're moving forward with the capital bill, so hopefully we'll make that happen. But we're extended the east side TIF, and that's been the issue. Is we've had plans on the shelf that was under previous administrations. One was the Neighborhood of Hope, and so they lacked financial resources. So that's one of the reasons we did the extension of the timeline with regards to the east side TIF, and now we're going to expand the boundaries so it abuts the Madison Park Place TIF, which is fully developed. We can port the money into the East Side TIF and have those additional dollars that we can leverage with private sector to make development happen. But what's really going to be announced in May is Poplar Place. That's one of the most crime-ridden areas of the East Side, and it's a $20 million redevelopment, taking duplexes to single-family housing. But the important aspect of the holistic development is the partnership that the developer is with Calvin Pitts. He runs the Bone Training Institute on South Grand, and it's putting people to work, and that's what it's all about. How do you employ, get gainful employment? And this is one major project where we'll be able to make that happen.
It sounds as though you, the developer, the former banker, are scattering out a bunch of blueprints on this desk and saying this project, that project, all of these things coming together can help. But is there a public perception problem too? Is there something that you can do with your voice from your position or your platform as mayor to shape the public perception of this racial issue? Is there anything that you, for example, you were at an event recently, I believe, with NAACP President Teresa Haley, and again repeated a prior commitment to do more to honor President Obama's legacy here in Springfield. Right. I don't know, is that something that the city of Springfield could do to remind folks that the color of your skin may not be a stumbling block to what you can do or achieve in life? Is there something along that that public perception lane that this office can do to help turn that tide and close that gap of segregation?
Well, we've done that in a small way with regards to rededication of the race rights sites, and it was my idea to have President Barack Obama's sayings along with Lincoln's on different markers, so you have that tie-in. But that's one area that we are going to commemorate. It will take time with regards to that. But you know, there's been a lot of discussions for a long period of time, and I think that's the frustration. How do you put action into those words? And that's what we plan on. That's why we focus on actually plans happening, or putting in enacting what we'd like to move forward. So really, what people look at is the hiring of Springfield government. And so we've gone from 10% to 13% minority hiring.
What's
and
your
it's
goal?
because
where do you want to get that up to?
Well, everybody wants
20%?
to be reflective of the community, so it'd be around 20%. But to be quite honest about discussions, what individuals within city government, if a minority gets it, the whites will say, well, they got it because they're a minority. And then minorities will say, well, the whites got it because they're related to the mayor. Or
so how do you speak above that noise?
How you do it is, the process we put in place is they got it because they're qualified. And it so happens that they're a minority or whatever the case may be, but that's the focus, is we want the qualified individuals, and from that we've opened up the process. We've opened up the doors of opportunity, and from that we've seen the improvements of minority hiring within the city of Springfield, going from 10% to 13% in all levels of government.
It wasn't long ago the city council was tinkering with, toying with the idea of raising restaurant tax or a few things here or there. Are there any new opportunities for revenue in the near future?
Well, I think it's through economic development. That's why I made those tough decisions with regards to going back to the ward plan meetings. One of the things that resonated is our residents wanted others that visit us to share in the tax burden, so to speak. So when Oak Ridge Cemetery is operating in the red when we came into office, that told me, let's raise hotel motel, because that is our visitors, and that Lincoln's home, or Lincoln's tomb rather, is one of those sites. So we use hotel motel tax, right?
But are there any more of those tough decisions in the near future?
No, I don't see that.
And
I see it through economic development. With regards to economic development, we'll raise the revenue stream with regards to property taxes, being additional property taxes through
grow
the values.
The base, don't just tax the people that are in it. But on the issue of legal marijuana, that could become a reality as soon as this time next year. And the current proposal, which is the one backed by Governor Pritzker and has the majority of support in the State House, would allow cities a lot of latitude. You could ban it. You could ban the sale of it here in Springfield through the City Council and with the stroke of your pen, or you could allow it, and add a city tax on top of it that could create new revenue. Where do you fall in that, knowing that the city of Springfield could use the revenue, but that I think you've previously expressed some reservations about legalizing? The election's now in your rearview mirror. You can speak candidly. What would you do if given the choice today?
Well, I'd rely on my police chief, to make a recommendation. But the city council, whatever we decide to do, they have to affirm it with regards to that. But right now, as it sits, we'd have to look at the ancillary impact of legalization. I mean, you look at video gaming; it's run rampant. Springfield is the king of video gaming. So we have the most machines, profit off of that. But what's the side impact? And what I look at is our children. And personally, on video gaming, it should have just, when they allowed it, it should have been just for the bars, because it's entertainment 21 and above. And unfortunately, they opened up the floodgates and it's all over the place. So now we have nail salons might want it, or anybody else might want to get a liquor license. Well, I think the side impact, what they want, is video gaming. And it's proliferated throughout our community. So when the young one goes into a restaurant, they think they're video games that we would have played when we were young kids, or pinball machines. And no, they're gambling machines, and it is addictive. It can be addictive. I had a friend that lived paycheck to paycheck, putting it all in video gaming. So it is with every reaction, and I think, unfortunately, government officials look at that quick fix. There's no quick fix. Really, the fix that you need to really plow through is economic development.
So do you think quick the people of Springfield are not using marijuana now? The video gaming is something that you had to install a machine,
right?
And that wasn't there before. Aren't the people of Springfield, by and large, already using large amounts of marijuana?
I haven't surveyed a lot of people, but here's the other impact. What really needs to happen, I mean, it needs to be a thoughtful approach. So if it's legalized, one of the things we'd have to look at, again, working with the police chief, is how did it impact Colorado, and what's that side impact? Because there are ancillary impacts to that potential benefit. But the other side of it is, moving forward with regards to usage, is, are the young people going to use it? Or, for us, we test still. So it's still against the law federally. And so if someone comes in, they might have fun time on Friday night, Saturday night, they come in Monday and they test positive, well, they're going to get disciplined, and I think it's 2 strikes, you're out. So people will lose their job. We've had people lose their job already. So if the legislature moves on that, what they should move on is some type of resource or invention, or whatever you want to call it, or testing, where they test where you can tell if a person's under the influence within a 24-hour period. Otherwise, people will lose their jobs, and that's really going to be a dramatic impact. And I think Teresa Haley had brought this up on the east side, or minority population, or what have you, and that's what we don't want happening. So when you move forward with these initiatives, you really need to look at the whole entire picture. And for us, as a government employer, you have to look at what's the testing. How do you test? Because it stays in your system so long. You have to narrow that window where they could test and say, okay, you're not under the influence within 24 hours previous, and so you're not impacted at work.
It's a tough situation. Looking back at the political situation that you're in right now, you sort of crossed the finish line by yourself without some of those groups that you thought.
Well, it's with the voters and a lot of volunteers, and
politically
the rank and file of the unions and others. I think they were deep down for us. I talk about the hierarchy, and when you talk about discrimination, they talk about what's structural discrimination, institutional racism. And so that's where you have to tear down the barriers, so to speak, and it's about, going back to Lincoln's words, it's about service to the people.
Do you consider yourself a progressive Democrat?
Well, I'm just, I'm just here. I'm a humble person. I'm a humble mayor. I come from banking, so I look at customer service. So I have kind of a unique approach to government and how I approach things, but it's all about engaging, getting information, and making the best decisions possible as you move forward and for our community.
I didn't hear a yes in there.
Well, what's your definition of progressive?
I guess that's for you to tell me.
Well, I'm a proactive person. I'm more of a Kennedy Democrat, if you want to label myself, and that's how I say that. And I'll give you a case and example. I met with Senator Brady when I first elected in 2015. And we met for breakfast for about half hour, 45 minutes. And there's numerous times within that conversation he said, "Are you sure you're not a Republican?" I said, "No, I'm not a Republican. I'm conservative because of my financial background in banking. But I look after the welfare of the people. But I'm not in total agreement with some of the initiatives that some Democrat Party would elevate. I'm more of a moderate with regards to say back in the Kennedy's era."
All right. Well, Mayor Langfelder, 4 years ahead of yourself. A lot
Looking
more
forward
work
to
do.
Yep.
Thanks for sitting down with us.
Well, thank you, Mark.